because I'm just that mad of a person.
All set.
All set.
Back and out.
Hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fluid Voice. I'm one of the co-hosts, Alexandria, also known as Ozma in the Dark. She, they, in terms of pronouns, and I'm joined by, as always, by Christy. How are you doing, Christy?
I am doing very well. This has been a spectacular Mother's Day. My first Mother's Day as a girl, as on hormones. I shouldn't say as a girl, but you know. So they made it my Mother's Day, which was really sweet.
Yeah.
And so I'm just gushing about it, and I'm having trouble stopping.
Yeah, and you still go by she, her pronouns?
She, her, yes. I'm boringly binary.
That's fine. Perfect. How are you doing?
Doing just fine. He, him.
Okay. And we're here with our guest tonight, a friend of mine who also does works with me on the D&D streams, Null. How are you doing, Null?
Doing all right. How are you? It's my natural response. Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's been a long day. Pronouns, they know.
Yeah, understandable. Like, I don't know. It's... Well, I mean, it hasn't been that long of a day, I guess. I played a bunch of D&D. Things weren't as bad for my character as I thought, but that's because I worry about the worst. Anyways, we're here to talk about freelancing work, because I know you you've been doing some research, Null, and Christy, I know you have tons of freelance experience, so
tons, but
significantly more than anyone else here. So let's start off how we usually do, and since me and Perfict are the most outsiders, Perfict, what are your thoughts, if any, about freelance work in general?
Well, I understand the principle of how it works, but I understand how it could be important to the trans community to make it work, but I don't have any real knowledge of how to turn freelance work into actual money, other than perhaps, if I wrote something, you can mail it to an editor at a magazine and see if they want to publish it. But
yeah, and I honestly am in a similar position, although I have done the tiniest bit of freelance work that I realized was terrible freelance work. I spent about 2 hours or so working on writing some just like a little freelance, like almost like a commercial level writing thing for like a couple bucks, and it's like I was just like thinking over the hours per amount of time worked, and I'm just like, nope, that's a terrible plan.
Mm-hmm.
So either of you can chime up on your general thoughts or whatnot. Actually, we're not gonna have a lot of disagreement in general. This is gonna be a lot more questions and conversation and thoughts.
Well, the biggest problem with freelance, if you wanted to put it in the terms you were doing, the biggest problem with freelance work is you never quite. I mean, you always have a set rate. You have the set rate that whatever publisher is going to do, or magazine or website, and doing it for that is great and all, but it's sometimes the highest profile story I've ever placed netted me $100, and one story that never actually a couple of stories that never actually came out for various reasons have been over 200 each. So it's kind of catch as catch can. The market is what it is in any given time.
Mm-hmm.
The worst is when you write specifically for a market, though, when they say, "Can you write this?" and I go, "Yeah," and then they go, "Oh, we're not doing that," and then you can't use it again.
Oh.
So
yeah, a lot of my understanding comes from the web design, web development, just design in general kind of sphere. So a lot of the stuff I know is kind of almost pie in the sky sounding.
What do you mean, like pie in the sky sounding?
Like there's a concept that I keep coming back to about, instead of billing for hours or for the project, you bill for you basically take a percentage of the potential profit that they can make off of what you're making for them. So in terms of a website, if I can get you X amount of hits, and X amount of hits translates to X amount of dollars spent, I can say confidently that I will take 5% of that revenue.
Okay.
That's usually, you give an estimate based off of that, and then
one of the thing, the person who's doing the cover art, which is my kid, is I'm doing that with him. Any self-published work that gets cover art by him, it's a quarter of the profits up until a certain mark is reached, if it's reached.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I would think if you're from a business standpoint of like asking other people to do stuff, I could understand how that would work. Although, in terms of finding stuff, I mean that ultimately is the biggest challenge in terms of freelancing, finding a way to make money off of it. And I realize, depending on the work, because art's complicated. Art is so much of how much of, well, actually, do any of you know how much of it is who you know in terms of freelance work?
Certainly good to know a couple people at least.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that. For the sake of the people I've worked with, I am not going to answer that.
Mm-hmm.
But that should answer. But the non-answer should answer it.
It's helpful to have a foot in the door, I guess, is the way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously. Yeah. I mean, obviously that would be definitely a factor, but like the elements of that, I would think, would be very different depending on what you're trying to do.
Yes. In my case, coming from certain companies for web development as a developer, word of mouth spreads a lot, and I was in small enough companies that I was a direct interface with a lot of the clients. So getting that word of mouth. They say, "Oh, Null is a good developer. They worked with me on this." They spread their information across. The issue I can see is not everyone has that, luxury to have worked in such a company, things like that. So it's, I'm definitely coming from a pretty privileged position when it comes to talking about this sort of thing.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
I've told the story to one other person ever, but this is how my career got started. I'd go to the science fiction convention that my college had, and in order to get free tickets, I'd be an assistant for somebody for the day. So I was this assistant to Mark Leonard one day, which cool, Sarek from Star Trek, and at the end and he was like more curious about my life than he was asking me more questions than I was, asking him. I was too, shy and retiring and would never talk to anybody. But at the end of the day, he insisted that I be allowed to come to the pros party, because the pros that were invited to the convention had a separate party from the the Gophers and the staff, and this is how I met Harlan Ellison and like a dozen more people, and got to network like immediately, and had people know my name when the Wonderland Tarot came out. Gan Wilson, and hopefully people remember him, was the first person to ever ask for my autograph. So so yeah, I've told the story for the first time within the last month, and it was just kind of like, because someone really wanted. I hope somebody just said something about Mark Leonard and said I hope he was as nice as he was, and I'm like, all right, let me tell you about him.
Yeah, I mean, but like obviously, I mean, there's only so much that's related to luck. Obviously, there are basically, I assume anything that you do isn't a guarantee. So, but like, some things are.
Some.
Wait, there are guarantees?
Yes. For instance, I have a story that is coming out as soon as I finish it, or not as soon as I finish it, as soon as the book comes out. This was a commission work, so basically it's in the book whether I fuck it up or not, which is actually starting to make me freeze up a little bit on it, because I don't want to do a bad job. But that is really, really rare.
Yeah, but so I think in terms of if things are just simply described as luck, that is the most discouraging way of like approaching anything, unless your mentality is well, it's luck anyway, so I might as well try it. But like, because a lot of things are, a lot of people make, or sorry, what I view in terms of there are a lot of ways to be discouraged. There's a lot of ways to there's a lot of reasons to stop trying with stuff. So obviously there needs to be like something that people can do, because if people don't feel like they can do anything and freelance is just luck, then why freelance? Unless you're fucked.
That's not really what I meant.
And that wasn't what I meant either.
Okay.
Yeah, no, what I meant is it helps a lot to have a stepping stone.
Oh yeah.
But realistically, the best thing you can do for yourself is either look into the industry you're trying to freelance in and see what is necessary to start doing that, or find freelancers that you are aware of and ask if you can pick their brain. Because the biggest thing is, like, in web development and everything, you kind of need to have a website. And that can be a little prohibitively expensive in some cases, unless you know what to do, where to look, etc. So a lot of it is finding the ways to get started that are within your means, and then sort of building a path from there.
The luck, I mean, I got lucky in that certain way, but if keeping up, learning contacts, to be perfectly honest, following people on Twitter and commenting on their stuff without, gushing or, this is what I've tried. Is this, what you've thought? There's a comic book writer, as a matter of fact, I've never met in real life, who doesn't know me from shit. And we have talked about writing before on Twitter, just, because I'm trying. I'm losing my train here. I'm sorry, but something like that. You have more access to people now than you ever did. So I know who recommended me for this commission, and it's someone I didn't expect. So there we go.
Yeah, so a lot of talking to people.
Yes.
Yeah, and always find people who are willing to, give out, good advice, but never approach it as in, here, tell me exactly what to do. It's like, well, what do you do when you get, I've had this happen when I'm doing that, and they'll usually reply with how they work it, and it's not a sneaky way of doing it. It's everybody knows exactly what's going on. It's just a conversation.
Networking is probably one of the best ways to build up not only a client base, but also a base of people that you can say you get too much on your plate, you can kick it off to somebody else, and then that person will later think, oh, this person kicked their work off to me, I've got a little too much going on, they'll send it over to you. Things like that. Networking is a big deal. Just making sure, unfortunately, in the industry I'm in especially, you kind of have to be a sales rep on top of everything you're doing.
And it's as much as people want to go with talent is the 90% part of writing. It's not. Most of it's getting the work done, knowing that you can get the work done on time. While I'm over a year late on a novel right now that knowing that you can get the work done on time, and cultivating decent relations with the rest of the community if you're a genre writer like me. So the science I'm in the Horror Writers Association, but I write mostly science fiction and fantasy. It's just that a lot of the science fiction and fantasy writers are also horror writers. Horror writers is a smaller group. I can pick brains a little easier. And the person who recommended me for the thing I'm doing now is someone who I met in the little restaurant at a convention, and he and his publisher just handed me a book all of a sudden and said, "Is this cover any good?" And I said, "No," and did a quick redesign for them. So there you go. And a friendship was born.
Well, I guess now that you're talking about networking, we kind of co-hosts network. Actually, all of this is just networking. All of this episode is networking. Null I met on Twitter as I meet most people. Christy, I don't remember if I met. Wait, I forgot how we ended up meeting. I know I ended up on your show at some point because you wanted, and I said yes to you your offer, but like my brain just shut off in terms of us actually meeting.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. I specifically said, because I don't know you, I haven't talked to you before, that I have a problem and I want somebody who doesn't know me to doesn't really know me to help to find out, and we did it on camera. So
yeah, and to some degree, but I mean, like, and Perfict I know through Ileani.
Sorry,
but,
I needed to go off for a second because something was going on over here.
Yeah, I have a habit of turning off my camera. At least for me, anytime I pick my nose. But
it's not too.
Well, look, it doesn't really happen on this stream because I'm a lot more focused on this stream. I can neither confirm nor deny that has happened on the D&D stream. But anyways,
a thing I wanted to say really quick about networking, because I know, especially for people like me who have like serious anxiety, talking to people is terrifying.
Yeah.
A big thing to know is networking doesn't have to be like, I'm going to talk to this person because I want something from them. Right. Networking is honestly the best kind of networking is stuff that doesn't feel official at all. It's just you talk to somebody, you kind of connect with them on some sort of like professional and interest level, and then from there you can kind of build a sort of professional relationship.
I mentioned Harlan Ellison, and he and I became friends, which is spectacular and wonderful. And he, I mean, I never hit him up to do anything for me. And he just, although when I was going in the first time to pitch my first novel, he gave me a huge hug and said, "You got this, kid," and which was great. But you know, I don't ask of people that networking with, and I almost don't like calling it networking. I've got friends, and it's nice to have friends, and once in a while, if I need a favor, I can call somebody, and they're there.
Yeah, that's the best way to look at it, really.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you know, obviously, I am the least familiar, having made almost no money off of any of this, or Twitch. I mean, that may change eventually. I'm trying to, whatever. That's its whole other thing in terms of me trying to do stuff. Basically, I'm trying to get into networking. Zavaris helps run like one of the biggest guilds in the server. So like, if I get up to level 60 in that guild and start streaming raids, and because we got close to first or on some like kills on Grobulus or whatever in World of Warcraft Classic, so like, you know, hopefully that can get more views, especially if we can get a good raid together and get first. But like, I get the impression that trying things and figuring out what works for you, is that like also a factor?
Oh yeah, there's a huge point of experimentation in all of this.
Sure. And yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. I do that sometimes. I'm so anxious to tell the story that I don't. Now I've lost mine a little bit. The most important thing about networking / making friends is the same thing that is the most important about making friends in real life. And I consider a lot of these people my real life friends. Well, obviously some of them are. But to be trustworthy. And I missed that when I was telling you, telling you that I'm not a backstabber. I don't, I try not to be a name dropper, but this is the first time I've even mentioned, Mark Leonard in any capacity. And what he did. But yeah, it's to be trustworthy and to be a good friend to people is a priceless thing in general, and it's a priceless thing within any group. And yes, join your professional guilds as best you can, even on if they have an amateur level, join it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another useful thing, but yeah, that's all.
Yeah, and I don't know. So I mean, I've heard this, and I don't know if either of you can verify much in terms of thoughts about this, but definitely sometimes just trying even if you think you have no chance.
Oh yeah,
Always.
Yeah, like definitely when I was I mean, I didn't expect to get accepted into EOT's D&D stream, mm-hmm. But I did get accepted for that part of it, and it was a good time, and I enjoyed being on that stream, and mm-hmm. It was I'm glad I tried. There's mm-hmm. But like other times it's just, obviously that doesn't work out, and that can't be like, I get the impression that can't be your only focus. I get the impression that a lot of this stuff can't be your only focus, and there's like a billion different things you need to focus on.
You really do need to juggle a lot of things. But in terms of like putting yourself out there and doing stuff, even if you think you have no chance, that's a big part of it.
Yep.
And also, as an extension of that, if you already have a client and you're afraid they're going to turn down something that you're putting out there, just hand it off to them. A lot of the time, clients don't have the same eye you do. And if you think it's not good, other people are going to think it's great sometimes. And that's just how things go.
And having a sense of your own worth helps mm-hmm. too. Very early on, somebody, there was a movie made out of something that I co-wrote, and I never got the credit, and I was like, that's okay, I don't need to do that or fight that or whatever. And
I'm sorry.
And my co-writer on that project we received something like $500 total for it, and it went on and made a lot of money. And I will not tell you what it is unless we're off camera.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think dips into the friendship thing, and just I guess to some degree that well, no, I mean, to some degree you don't, with any work thing, generally you don't want to blab too much unless you don't care about dealing with that type of work ever again.
No, and sometimes I'll do a favor. And yeah, I'll just try. My friend was doing a movie, and I asked him if he needed a song for it. And next day I got the script. So it happens.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's where self-worth comes in things, because you can't just like do everything for exposure.
Yeah.
That never do anything for exposure, actually.
It depends on what it is. In this particular case, I was excited about the project, and the only thing I'm ticked at is my IMDb page is gone.
When I said that, I should have rethought about it. It's just, in the design world, everyone expects you to do things for exposure.
Oh, yeah, that's
in the design world. Never do stuff just for exposure. That's
because you can die of exposure.
In the music world, there's a lot of that, which is why I don't I consider myself a writer and musician, but the music stuff's for me, and if I get paid, I get paid. If I don't get paid, I don't get paid, and I don't particularly give a fuck.
Yeah, see, this is where I get the impression that you should give a fuck just a little bit, because otherwise, like, it's one, like, exposure, the varying degrees matter. Like, it's one thing if like if you're going to do like a opening number for like a concert with like Snoop Dogg and like a bunch of like really famous artists. I don't know why I can only think of Snoop Dogg at the moment.
I don't think
like,
Snoop Dogg would have me, but that's all right.
Yeah, don't think about the details too much there. But like, you know what I mean? Like, getting that sort of level of exposure is like way bigger than just various small venues who also are just for exposure. It's like exposure to 5 people while doing something for an hour is rougher, I say, while I make YouTube videos for no money and spend hours making YouTube videos and streaming. Like, but I mean, to some of that, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I kind of agree about some of that is, if you're doing it for yourself, just I mean, I get the impression that it might help to try to reach out to bigger venues and try to actively work to get on bigger venues.
Well, my band had started that, and all of a sudden I don't know where my band is. They've gone away. No, I get paid often enough where it's fine. There's one place that really is an exposure place, and what I do is I pretty much use that as a practice room. To say, okay, this is the set I'm working on now. Let's see how it runs.
No, I can imagine that. It's just every aspect of freelancing just seems really difficult to start. Like starting seems like the most difficult thing when it comes to freelancing.
It's a lot of the issue is really it's an inertia thing, because once you get started, you can start to snowball and you will build momentum fairly reliably. It's just that finding a way to really push into it that can be a bit difficult for people.
The only thing I can really talk about is writing. I mean, I can talk about the music business, but it's such a different animal that it would take a long time all by itself. And it's not my primary mode. So breaking through, getting the first story is hard. I will not deny that.
No disagreement here. My story's not finished yet. Anyway, go on.
But there's the old Heinlein adage: apply ass to seat. Write. Keep writing until you're finished. Send off what you write. Do not revise except on editor's notes, and keep going. And that's how you keep going. Now I really feel like I have to finish this novel like any day now. It technically is finished, and I'm noodling at the edges. Sorry.
Whatever. Mine, I got distracted by a Look, I maybe start going into some detail of this. It's science fiction / fantasy. It's almost like fantasy with rules based off of physics to some degree. But anyways, so there's this whole and it takes place in medieval like time. So there is healing type magic, but it's the human body is still the human body and can still get infected and all sorts of other stuff. But like I started going into like the details of the medical book to try to understand the medicine of the country to the made up world just to try to figure out that and language building just to try to figure out medicine. And because the main character during a part is learning to read because she wasn't taught that as a kid, but she ended up in a position to learn to read later. But anyways, sorry, that's a bit of a divergence, because now we get see, now I am on writing, and that's not
I will say one of the nice things about trans Twitter is that since there are so many people from so many different backgrounds, that if you need a question answered, I needed a philosophy question. I was not really tight on. I needed someone to double check that, and right in trans Twitter, there we go.
Oh, yeah, you're saying that in front of Perfict. Our resident philosopher is right here, and he's got... Actually, are you here, Perfict?
I'm here.
Okay, you've been so silent. I was starting to wonder for a second. Resident philosopher is right here. He's got the rumpus room. Like, I'm sure he could have answered a philosophy question. No,
I have a few philosophers on staff, so I always whoever I get to first is pretty much who I ask.
I am suddenly reminded of the Left Thinking podcast, which I really enjoyed being on and learning, and I think the person is fairly intelligent for just talking about how stuff is done. Wow, I am really going off of a tangent. This is what happens when we start talking about networking and writing and all this stuff. I start thinking about writing and people I've come in contact with, and
I did want to say really quick, because I definitely can see how everything we've talked about can seem really intimidating and kind of not worth it almost. I do want to say, if you keep at it, you will get that momentum.
Yes.
It's not like it can be really discouraging at times, and it can be really hard to get into, but if you give up, you're not going to get to it. You know what I mean?
What is it? No one ever hit a home run with the ball they didn't swing at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got, I'm not going to say super lucky. I there's something I did in 1988 that's still doing very well for me, and I never thought that was something that was going to last, but it's a ball I wanted to swing at, and there we go. It worked.
Yeah, and there's so much that I hate wanting to do too much, and then also needing sleep. Why do I have to need sleep? Like, it'd be so much easier if I didn't. No, actually, that's probably not a good thing to say repeatedly, because obviously obviously that's not good to say for, if someone is experiencing a manic episode, there's no reason, there's extra reason for them to not want to sleep. And
oh yeah, being bipolar really helps, I will tell you that much.
I mean, in terms of self-care, like, self-care is still important. I mean, I can see how it would, and I mean, we can go into like a whole thing about ableism later, and
no,
disability.
I am bipolar, so it's all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, okay, so I have a bipolar friend, so it's okay for me to say whatever I want to know.
No, it's to be perfectly honest, I do not get much work done in manic phases. It's the in-between phases I get most of my work done.
That makes sense. And I know at least one of my the long distance girlfriends is bipolar.
They're all long distance girlfriends now.
Well, yeah. Well, I was trying to talk her into like actually hanging out with me in person, but like that, and then the COVID virus happened, and then like, that didn't help. Thanks a lot, COVID-19. Thanks a lot for delaying my gender confirmation surgery, for making it so I can't see one of my girlfriends in person, the one who's easiest to see in person. The other one lives isn't moving to Minnesota. I'm fine with mentioning the state where I live. Isn't moving to Minnesota until like next year, and then we can hang out whenever. She did the smart thing and tried to meet people in the state ahead of time, but that's it. That's its other story. That's a whole other story. Probably shouldn't get into that. Freelancing.
Hey, freelancing. That's a topic we could talk about.
Yeah, we could. No.
I'm doing a mini concert for my true. You know, we talked about that beforehand, and I'm not going to go into it all.
Yeah.
Well, from what I'm gathering, the object is to cultivate personal relationships, but establishing them is still just dint of effort, which can be daunting.
Yes.
Doing the work is the 99.99% of the whole thing. Really just getting the work, doing the work. Everything else is secondary. You hit the deadlines. I'm a year late on a novel.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I'm concerned about the percentage thing you have there, because, like, I would think, because there are ways you can improve. There are aspects in which you might improve intuitively, but sometimes you have to put it. Well, I mean, I guess that is a work as well, putting in the work to actually learn how to improve. So yeah, 99.9% work. No, that works.
Yeah,
because that's always hard, because especially with artists, you hear artists talk about just draw and you'll get better, and it's like, I mean, it's not completely true, and it's easy to get discouraged if you didn't start out good at drawing.
The truth of the just draw thing is that they don't tell you is you actually need to pick what you're drawing and practice it instead of just kind of doodling it over and over. You need to pick out the thing that you want to improve on and then focus on practicing that. In general, that's how you improve at things. Just doing it over and over is how you cultivate bad habits.
Yes. But first you have to draw it. Then you can draw it better. You don't draw it better until you draw it once.
You don't know how many pages and pages and pages and pages of hands that my kid drew. I mean, just to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
I mean, my kid's lucky that he knows somebody who needs an artist and is actually willing to pay rates.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just there was this was talked about with regards to League of Legends. Sorry, I'm still a League of Legends fan. I just haven't played for a while because there's too many things I'm trying to get done, and improving at League of Legends hit the back burner, at least currently. But like, people tend to have an attitude that like, people are born good at something or not, or born with, like, potential, but it's a lot of it is just learning, and some people just happen to pick up certain things faster than others, and that's about it.
Yep.
Also, never discount the whole upbringing factor.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm from an artistic family, so writers and artists and artists, musicians. So I never talk about that side of the family. I always talk about my awful stepfather. But no, I mean, my mom's from that. So it was pretty much. I didn't think I was going to wind up writing comedy, but there you go. comedy and horror.
Yeah, and I know. Yeah, with me, obviously, it was but it's a little different, a little bit more complex, because I always got the impression that my older sister especially didn't want me to copy her goals and aspirations, so she was definitely a discouraging factor with art. But that, and I wasn't like especially good at the start, and like I've doodled since like I was a kid, so it, like off and on. And it's not like I can't draw, it's just that if I'm trying to do something for other people, then it's hard not to try to do my best, and then everything gets way more frustrating because I'm trying to do like everything better than I normally do. And then I either get stressed out or just yeah, because like yeah, if I'm just drawing stuff randomly for fun, I can draw something entertaining in an hour. Like it's I have enough experience to do that. And hell, I can scheduling is like the hardest thing for me. And that doesn't help with writing.
That's something very hard in art, design, or writing, is putting it to bed, saying, good,
Yeah,
I have done enough work, it's good enough, I can let it go.
yeah, you always want to keep going at it. Again, the novel's been ready for a while. So
My novel actually isn't ready. It's not it's not as long as I'd like it, and by not as long as I'd like it, I mean not the typical length for a novel.
how long
And
is
also
it?
I want to flesh let me look. I haven't checked my word count in forever. It's not gonna be in recent documents. I haven't opened it up in like forever. Shh, don't judge me. I was last. I know you're not judging me. Last year I was writing a lot more than this year. I don't think I've written on it at all this year. I got oh wait.
One of the nice things about comedic novels is that they are shorter.
Yeah. Wait, is it
So-
actually in documents? I don't know what I'm doing. No, where I know there's another draft of this.
Just tell me the answer.
Well, I don't actually know off the top of my head, so I actually have to look it up. I don't know the amount. It's driving me nuts. So wait, let me order things by name. That would help me actually. Here we go. Da, 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 da. Da da da.
One more da for the road.
Yeah, da. Right. 16,240 words.
Yeah, that's a novella. Or a novelette, actually.
Yeah, it's a bit short currently, but also there's various aspects I genuinely want to flesh out and add more to. There's certain scenes that I'm just like, what I did was I was like, we'll write later, essentially.
The commonality, if you're writing what you were saying you were writing, is that the novel would be 70 to 80,000 words. Or, Song of Ice and Fire.
No, I'm not going that long. No, fuck that.
100,000.
It's always possible that I might go for novella instead of.
Those are hard to place, but I could help you with that. I know where the few places that take novellas.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing novellas 15,000 to 40,000 words usually, and then I thought a novel was 40,000 plus.
Yeah, that's under the old rules.
Oh, and the current rules are usually like 70 to 80k.
It's 60 is a novel.
Okay, I could do 60k, probably. I mean, that's triple my novel size, but to be fair, there are various things that are a bit too rushed. The thing about me with writing is I had a story, and I thought it was going to be a short story, and then it ended up a long story, and so I wanted to add.
That never happens.
What?
That never happens. I'm joking.
Sorry, Brandon's like, wait, that doesn't happen? Or I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah, it was just going to be a short story, and then something happened in the story because I have a general idea of what I want, and then I try to flesh it out or whatever, and sometimes things change depending on what makes sense. Sometimes characters live or die, and depending on my mood.
Okay. If you just to get this off, sorry. Yes. I wrote a novel which was terrible, and there was one section I wanted to keep out of it and expand to a novella, which I wound up expanding into a novel, which was terrible. And then there was one character I thought, I should probably keep her. And I wound up writing a completely different, or in the same genre, but a completely different off novel. And that is the novel that I'm talking about finishing, that I needed to finish. So it happens that way.
Yeah, I wanted to make it easy on myself and just try to write short stories, but then something happened to the character in terms a negative thing happened to the character in terms of how she acquired magic. And then I was like, fuck, well, I have to do the whole story about them dealing with that now. And that's just like the short story was essentially works really good for the opening part. And now it's just like, now I've worked too much on other stuff.
No, well, this has got to be true in web design too. Know what your basic find out. I mean, you won't know instinctively, but find out what your parameters are. What is okay, I have common links for short stories. If you're going to ask me for a short story, there are several links you'll get. It's not there's a couple of different links you'll get, because this is what I write to. I can write to length almost exactly. Learning what your comfortable lengths are is one of the one of the things in writing, because what you're doing something that's pretty common, flop around, and I'm not saying that as an insult. trying to justify expanding something that needs expanded, but maybe you wrote it at a length that's not comfortable for you. So, don't do it that way.
Well, I mean, I'm genuinely enjoying the length. I genuinely enjoy it. Like, it's not that I'm not comfortable. It's just like a lot of other life stuff. I'm trying to sort out like a lot of other life stuff, and then it's distracted from my writing because I just.
That's okay.
No, I know. So Wellington Smith
hi Wellington, kisses.
Yeah, I forgot. Sorry. The restream, for whatever reason, it's supposed to be telling me everything that happens on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So I haven't been looking at the YouTube. Apparently, it's been telling me nothing about what's been being typed in YouTube. So, anyway, Wellington asks, is there loss of creative control if you move out of the freelancing? How do you manage to keep control over your content if you go to work for someone else? And is it worth it?
Last question. Yes. You answer the rest of them.
I was gonna say, I don't think I can answer this because I can't like transplant a website for one company to another one.
Well, read them out one at a time, and we'll chew them.
Okay, so the first one is there loss of creative control if you move out of the freelancing?
Yes, probably. Emily, well, if you want, I'm going to just mention trans creators because that's what I'm, Emily Vanderwerf moved out of AV Club for reasons I'm still unclear on, and but still maintains a fair amount of control. She just recently wrote a long Twitter post on how the editing process goes in her company. So the creative control is there. If you have someone who's a news person or an editorial, if your editorial say I had her name when I started this sentence. This person works at Vox, and she'll beat me up for forgetting her name.
It's okay. We'll protect you.
She's
from long distance beating up.
She won't beat me up. She's very nice, and we talk about writing here and there because we do very different writing, but we have the same problems. Caitlin Burns. I wasn't going to forget. Caitlin Burns, who works at Fox for Vox, not Fox, not Fox. Oof. Now I'm in for a beating. Caitlin Burns, who works for Vox, has a fair amount of control over what she does. I know she freelances and gets assignments, so that's a tricky one. But she's working for Vox. It appears almost exclusively, and I may be wrong here. So the loss of creative control is the words are still yours. And even if you publish a novel, I had a bit of a to-do on my last novel with the way the editorial wanted it, and the editorial just, and I just could not get to an agreement. And so I just self-published it. There's also other reasons I self-published it, but in that particular case, it was like, okay, I want this thing to come out someday, you know.
Yeah, and I wonder if that relates to the other question. How do you manage to keep control over your content if you work for someone else?
Well, how much? I mean, Null, how much do you? Are you totally beholden to exactly what they want to do?
I mean, not necessarily. There's a little trick you can do, especially with design, where you basically, you know, the old negotiation thing where you give them the most ridiculous offer or request first and ask for something more reasonable. It's basically the same thing in design, where you give them the most ostentatious, ridiculous piece of crap first, and then say, here's my third option, and that's the one you want them to see. You can usually kind of guide them in. The best way to avoid loss of that much creative control, because clients love to do the, oh, let's make it pop, or let's make it edgy. Okay, could you turn this into pink? That's my favorite color. Add some kittens. Like, the best way to avoid that is to
wait. What's wrong with any of those options? Like,
well, so
pink is my favorite.
You don't
color.
like kittens?
Yeah, do you not like kittens?
No, the issue is not that. It's more that when they start doing that and you start saying, yeah, we can do that, you are basically giving them an inch and they're going to take the mile.
Oh, yeah.
Those are just the most commonly used examples of that sort of thing. But the best way to avoid that sort of inch-mile situation is to explicitly put... basically, in design, you have to write up a contract, just explicitly. So it's best to put in your contract that you give them X amount of revisions included in your payment. And if they want more, then they have to pay you more. Otherwise, you'll get into revision hell.
Yeah, that's kind of where we wound up with that's why the novel came out as it is. And he didn't find the one thing that I absolutely object to in that novel now, which is why I've pulled the novel, and you can still get it digitally, but I pulled it, and I'm gonna revised part of it but nobody caught on to the part that I find objectionable and screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. Everybody liked that part.
And so this is about the time of the show when we accept call-ins. That being said, due to last week's... What?
Let's finish Wellington's questions first.
Oh, the last one was, is it worth it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you answered that one right away. That was the last question. Like, you answered that before the other question, so I didn't know what I assumed that was still the answer. Yeah, I was just gonna say that due to last week's incident and the fact that I haven't quite set up screening yet, I've got like a quick AFK thing, which I can AFK and muting option, which you know, no, oops, wrong one.
I still don't know what this mysterious incident was.
Oh, we'll tell you after. Don't worry.
Yeah, it was a troll related thing, but anyways, I haven't fully gotten the screening thing, so I will this week and this week only. Because I should have it up by next week. Hopefully this week only. Only call-ins from people accepted that from people I know.
Even that, I'm gonna have my mouse right now is in the participants section, and I can ditch someone right off.
Yeah. So we mentally. And how should I put it this way? The last week's episode was about creative responsibility, and we tried to deal with this as creative, as responsible as possible, and we have made effort to improve things. It would just it wouldn't be right if we do an episode on creative responsibility and then just don't do the responsible thing in that circumstance. But
I had to learn how to edit, so that's a thing.
by the way, in terms of previous, so we can kind of freeform a bit now, but in terms of the previous bit that we're talking about,
As if
networking.
we haven't been.
Shut up. It's all well. I mean, ultimately, yes, it is all kind of sort of freeform, but like there was a general topic that we were kind of hanging loose to. Like I figured, given last week especially, it'd be nice to have like a chill episode, and
It was a topic solar system.
Yeah, and we were kind of oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just we kind of revolved around the topic at various distances at different.
Yeah, we stayed fairly tight on it. We were in orbit.
Oh yeah, but the thing. Sorry, I immediately diverged the conversation from what I was talking about. The networking, because Christy, you editing that took a lot off of me, because otherwise I would have tried to suggest I edit. Like, it'd been a lot easier for you to deal with that, and I was just like, well, you offered to deal with that, so I'll let you deal with that because I don't want to.
It was, yeah. I had other reasons for wanting to do it too, but
yeah, but like, it is what it is, and these things are their own frustrating thing, and yeah, there's still a lot of I mean, this is something that could be like really discouraging for someone to experience, the troll thing, and also the other thing that's really easy to discourage is I've done plenty of Twitch streaming. I've done a fair amount of Twitch streaming, and sitting there by yourself with like no viewers, waiting for someone to pop in. So this is why it's to some degree more helpful if you're doing anything like that, for you have someone to talk to.
I did a little bit of streaming myself, and it was a nightmare just sitting there talking to myself for like 3 hours. So like,
you can feel free to message me if you want to someone to talk with during your stream. I may or may not be free, but it's worth a shot. This is where networking comes into play. I have messaged people before to ask if they wanted to talk
That's
during
okay.
my stream.
I snag almost everybody that comes on here for my interviews. So on my channel, or we snag the people that interview on my channel for this thing.
Yeah, and the thing about the one thing about Twitch streaming, so in some ways Twitch streaming has more opportunities than YouTube to get Twitch streaming does have more opportunities than YouTube to get money. That being said, YouTube has more opportunities than Twitch streaming to gain an audience.
Yes.
Which is why I'm trying to do both, which is work,
Yes.
to put out both and have it up there, and
what
You-
we do here is both networking and freelancing.
Yeah.
YouTube is freelancing. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And I love doing it, and I'm doing it. But YouTube, you have to want to do it for yourself for a very long time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's where passion comes into play.
Yeah.
Because you have to be you have to genuinely be passionate about trying to do stuff. That's, I think, part of the reason why I've had art for an intro for D&D, the D&D stream I've been doing since last year. For a really long time, I've been having aspects of that art on back burner, and that just suggests to me I'm not passionate enough about art to do intro art for D&D that's of like higher quality. Low quality art I can do. Low quality art's easier.
I like that that between here and my channel, I've developed, even if it's a small audience, it's an audience that I very, very much want. I want these, that sounded awful. You understand what I mean. These are if I were to cultivate an audience, this is the audience I want. Wellington, for instance, is a sweetheart, and that's why I blew the kisses and stuff. And I want more people like him.
Yeah, and I mean, it's having an audience is nice. Once you're able to get it, but I mean that even is some amount of work. And definitely depending on your personality, you can end up gaining audience members and then losing audience members. And that's ultimately, to some degree, that's what happens. And you can gain network connections and lose network connections depending on what you do. And obviously, like, ethical positions take priority over making network people happy.
No, I very much agree. Is Wellington still there?
I don't actually know how to tell who's still here. Oh, wait, there's participants. Wait, no. There are 3 confirmed viewers. Why does it only say the flute voice for participants? I don't know what's going on. I don't understand. Possibly. Wellington secretly want to type something up for Christy to know if you're there, and if not, we might have to assume that you're not there.
Because I have an actual question for Wellington, and it's just a simple one. Did you came over with the Steve Shives interview, right? Right. And that's a way of talking about networking. Steve Shives agreed to do an interview with me, because we.
Oh yeah, we need to contact Steve Shives to talk in this show. We haven't done that yet.
Oh. At the end of the interview, the one thing he said was there any doubt in your mind when you asked me I would come? And I said, yeah, you're busy. You've got other people. I've got no audience. And I had 20 subscribers. I had 100 or so after he was on, which was nice.
Yeah, and I'm not as familiar with Steve Shives, but I like talking. Here's the thing: I like talking with different people. I like hearing different people's opinions, and I try to avoid groupthink. I just I don't know. We're all people. People are people are people. And I don't think it helps to break us off into groups so that we can generalize those groups.
No. Well, that's just a general thing, which is.
I mean, it's an instinctive thing that people do.
Yes, and I'm tribalistic towards leftists in general. You know, I want other. I don't tend to associate much with the right, so it's a thing.
Yeah, although my I saw this on Twitter. I think the whole thing about being trans and were tend to be further left than the average person. And it's just like, you know, at this stage, it's like death and like, you know, rights taken away. Yeah, the little the curved things with the various political graph, and it's like, yeah, it's it's kind of true that sort of stuff makes it difficult, but also some of the really popular people, actually just in general, there's a lot of there are way too many really popular people who kind of knee-jerk stuff because they can get content out faster. And I don't know, sometimes but the thing is, I get the impression that for you to be like truly well, there's certain types of right wing, there's certain types of left wing, and if there's a lot of Republicans, especially, who put the nation above the people, and that makes it hard to have a nice conversation about people related stuff.
I'm also thinking about that 2-bit guy, the quartering. Get it? 2 bits, the quartering. Ha! The
Wait, no, I don't get it. I missed it. Wait, what's
2 bits is a quarter.
2 bits is a quarter because a bit is an eighth, which is from pieces of 8.
I got a different reference accidentally. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about bits on a computer, and I was just like, 2 bits isn't a quarter. That doesn't make sense.
And my mind went to torture, so.
Okay, well that's.
Oh, wow.
You've watched his channel then.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know, it's really fuck, I was just gonna immediately just pop off into like a far tangent about like people related to comment on Savaris's channel. Never mind. It's well, now I have to say it because I started blurring it out anyways. Sometimes people can meet it relates to knee jerking technically when people are like get a really surprising impression from a video. So Savaris did a video criticizing, I think it was the quartering and Destiny, with relation to opinions on movies. Was that the quartering? Does quartering do movie reviews?
If you can call them that, yeah.
Sure. Okay. I think it was him and Destiny, and the comment was like, and it was just talking about, you know, about how people can have instinctive opinions and how, you know, people can, you know, the various ways in which people can judge movies, because Destiny has terrible movie opinions, the ways that people can judge movies before they even see them and stuff like that. And then someone was just like, yeah, there's like a comment on Savaris' channel that was just like, yeah, we, basically way to show Destiny how he's super wrong about like all this stuff, and it's like, that wasn't the point. That wasn't the point of the video. It was just to show that it was just to show how people can get into certain people can make emotional opinions. That's all the video is about. It's just using them as examples. And yeah,
I was gonna say, the thing is, when you bring a person into an example, the instinct everybody has is that it is an attack on that person. And I'm not saying whether it was or was not. I don't even know what this is, but that's sort of the general instinct people have, is if you are criticizing somebody's argument, you therefore must be criticizing the person. And that's why people get into that sort of like, yeah, you showed them kind of mindset.
Yeah.
There are very few people I will criticize in by name on YouTube, and they are in order. The quartering is one of them. I have no use for his idiocy. His manufactured it, his manufactured I shouldn't say idiocy, but it's ableist, but I don't know what else to call it. It's
Controversy?
Manufactured outrage. He's one of the like, get woke, go woke people, regardless of whether or not that has any bearing on. I said the other name. Whether or not that has any bearing on reality.
Yeah, the thing about that is, yeah, I mean, there's various. This is why it makes it hard to have conversations about stuff, and why I have put some time, not as much as would be ideal, but like some time in researching how to change people's minds about stuff, because how to break past those instincts, because there are ways to do it. Now a lot of my videos are just going to be trying to use those ways and see what works and what doesn't.
The shotgun method.
Well, not completely, because like obviously well, I mean, it's a shotgun method without having to build the shotgun. Someone else built the shotgun, and it works, and there are studies to show that the shotgun works. But I've never fired a shotgun before, so like it's still gonna take a little bit of practice before I hit the target. Hit the target.
I'm not sure you really understand how shotguns work.
I shut up.
Shotguns are very point and click kind of weapons, to be honest.
Yeah, but like,
Buckshot,
so long as you're shooting it out of the right end of the shotgun, or shooting it.
But one bullet left. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. Like, come on. Shit, I totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, it like, I mean, that fits into some degree with the whole like trying things, because like yeah, it's hard. Everyone will fuck up. a bunch before they do anything amazing, unless they get really lucky and just happen to accidentally do something amazing, because that happens every once in a while. And you say that, but like, how much were you writing, like, before you succeeded?
I was doing a lot, but it was with the Wonderland Tarot was a fluke. I don't know, and we spent a year doing it, so I suppose it wasn't that much of a fluke, because we actually put a lot of thought and work into it.
I mean, yeah, and during that, I'm sure you've messed up like a ton, like during the process.
There's 78, there's 80 cards in the finished thing, and if you include the back card, and there's 50 that were redone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. And everybody looks at it and goes, "Hey, that's swell. Can you do it again?"
Actually, we couldn't. The next thing we sent, they said, "All right, can you do this?" And then we were like, "Okay, yeah, sure." And we spent another doing the designs took about 4 or 5 months, and they went, "Nah," they changed their mind.
Yeah.
So, I should have gotten an upfront on that.
Yeah, that probably would help. And I assume you want to try to get an upfront, and obviously, you know, I'm just suddenly reminded of, like, once I start making money off of D&D streams, I will I mean, technically I don't have to pay whoever is still on there, but I will, because I want to. It just, like,
and yeah, you're gonna have to pass a few bucks to TSR.
Wait, what's TSR?
People who own D&D.
Oh. No.
Unless something's changed, then they're gonna ask
also,
for
I think
a cut.
TSR doesn't own D&D anymore.
They don't?
No, they haven't owned it for a while. It's Wizards of the Coast owns it.
Yeah.
Well, Wizards of the Coast owns TSR.
Well, yeah, but, like, Wizards of the Coast is a different company that runs things differently. But also, the thing is, because so many people have streamed stuff like this, like, they and they didn't, I think it's one of those things where, because they didn't fight it right away, they can't fight it anymore.
Oh yeah, there's one of those. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I assume that's what the case is, because I haven't heard of anyone having to pay D&D. And in fact, in terms of some of the reason why they don't make you pay is because it's free advertising for them.
Yeah, all I can think of is my music channel, which I don't really use anymore. I did very few covers on there, but half of the covers got dinged, and they said you don't have to take this down. You just have to give it half the revenue from this video.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Okay, sure. I don't have 1,000 subscribers. I'm not getting any revenue from it anyway. But
yeah. That stuff does happen. The music industry is a lot more vicious with anything. Music industry and videos are like professional videos are like the most likely to ding you on YouTube.
Video games are a pretty close second, depending on the company.
Yeah, like Nintendo will definitely do it, but like there are a lot of companies that it very much depends on the company because there are various
We're
live
doomed now.
streams
You
that
said
happen.
Nintendo.
Oh no.
You cannot. However, what'll ding you. You can't cover a Beatles song, Led Zeppelin song, or Prince. There's one other, and I'm forgetting it, and it's a Pink Floyd.
Oh.
And I don't know why, but that's cool. No, except for I do cover a Pink Floyd song. I cover See Emily Play, which isn't under the rules that they have. So, because the first two albums are exempt, for the first album is exempt from that, for incredibly complex reasons.
Yeah, most copyright stuff is incredibly complex. It just with a lot of things that get dinged on YouTube and whatnot, you have to make sure that it's obviously actually the company that owns that property, because there are various people who will try to ding you to get money off of you.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I check. As long as if it's BMG, I'm reasonably sure they own it.
Yeah,
And
they're less likely to do false copyright strike. Now, some companies do false copyright strike related things on YouTube. But probably not that company.
Someone was. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
just
you go
real
ahead.
quick.
You haven't talked. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Let me. I'll finish. Somebody covered one of my songs, and all I did was just go on the channel and say thank you.
From some of the things that were said earlier, and about not doing things for exposure and people's dissatisfaction with that, and some of the things that were recently said, I was just thinking that it might be better put as don't do things on spec.
That's
know
it.
what you're getting out of it.
Yes, exactly. That's the better way of putting it.
Yeah, I'll still work on spec, but I'm in a position right now where I can ask first, where I can just say, I want to do this story. Do you want it? Or somebody will come to me and say, we want a story 4. And I didn't think that's a position I'd be in given my limited catalog, but there I am. So, okay.
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of, and we talked about this a little last week, a lot of creative stuff, it's just hard for people to, it's hard for a lot of people to realize, how visible they are. Like, yeah, there are numbers that you can go by, but like, I get the impression that, sometimes that there is a possibility that despite my incredibly low audience, that I might be memorable sometimes to people, and I don't, and it's weird because, like, it's not necessarily an easy one-to-one thing. It's not always an easy one-to-one thing.
And we've not had anybody on here who I would not classify as someone I would like to, hang with. No, I'm including you in this. We've not had anybody.
No, I was ASL clapping. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. I apologize. I should have known that.
It's fine.
I mean, I like you. You're very nice.
Um,
I'm being. I know there's one coming up in the not too distant future that I do not want to have anything to do with. So, but I'm going just to be here anyway.
and by the way, in terms of American Sign Language, that's another thing I want to learn. There's too much stuff I want to learn. That's a problem. I only know, like, sorry, that was a bit slow. Yeah, that's all I know in American Sign Language. How to apologize.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Mortality is a bitch for that.
Yeah, well, that's why I have to try to make sure to live long enough and find a way to acquire the means to get replacement stem cells and then live significantly longer. It's a simple thing. We're close. I mean, you just have to transfer skin cells to omnipotent stem cells, and then you need to correct you need to artificially manufacture the DNA, which we do understand how to do. That's to try to get an extended words. All I can think of is telomere, but I'm not sure that's the right word. Basically, the bit that shortens when stuff replaces.
Telomere.
Telomere.
Oh, it is
yeah.
telomere. Okay, I remember words, and I don't remember. I'm like, that doesn't sound right, but I guess it is right. That happens to me a lot.
Honestly, I'm just waiting until I can get my synapses remapped onto an artificial substrate.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you.
Well, yeah, and
I'm not a big fan of this body, so
Same.
I think the whole biological thing has been shown to be vulnerable. And
well, no. See, I want to do that to extend my life until the next stage, which is to create artificial parts that can fix cells, and cells that can fix artificial parts, so I can do a fusion of organic and inorganic material to become like extremely hard to get rid of.
okay, I'm following your plan so far, but when does the world domination come into it?
See, I'm not as interested in that. I see. This is where I go into. I'm going to go.
But what do you mean, not interested in that?
Well, no, I'm going to go full anarcho-communist. I'm sorry, I'm just.
I, as a democratic socialist, will have to fight you on that.
You can try. No, I don't actuly like.
The artificial body wars.
No, honestly, I'm not an anarcho-communist. I actually don't have like a clear position outside of left wing. But I definitely don't want to rule the world. That seems like a hassle.
No, everybody wants to rule the world. That's what they told me in 1986.
I know, right?
Yeah, they even did a song.
Wait, hold on. I got my guitar here.
Yeah, no,
my guitar is always at hand. You've probably noticed that.
Yeah, fuck, that makes me want to borrow my dad's guitar and try learning how to play again. But I can't because the COVID-19. No, like I said, there's too many things I want to try and I want to do, and managing that's difficult. But yeah. In terms of political position, I just left wing. That's my political position. Left of center. I
Well,
like,
that's another song from 1986.
oh, Left of Center.
Yes. If you
Good.
want me, you can find me left of center, wondering about you.
But yeah,
I'm old.
yeah, but like, so, um, yeah. So, no, there's just I still haven't. I have information that I want to think about first. I want to read and learn about first before I determine whether or not I think any sort of anarchist type system would be viable when it comes to anti-corruption. I want to actually know what I disagree with, and because there are, like, we have what causes corruption and what prevents it, and at least some information on what we know about that. And I just want to read that first. My default is democracy until I read through that, because I just don't know enough to have a position. For sure. Obviously, the system at hand is so corrupt that it's a problem.
Well, yes, but
I am not going to talk about my politics.
that's a perfectly acceptable position.
That is actually that is generally an acceptable position, unless you claim to be against talking about how everything you're doing is apolitical, and then fueling right wing stuff.
No, it's it's a situation of I am extremely not right wing and extremely not centrist, and I really don't necessarily want to fuck up explaining things, so I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. Like, we're here to fuck up for you.
I lost a lot of people when I said I didn't like Bernie Sanders as a person.
Oh,
and
yeah. No, you have to like Bernie Sanders as a person. It's an imperative.
Yes, I must.
It is verboten.
And I'm left of Bernie, if as I always mention.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of the disagreement comes down to implementation, although honestly we don't have much of a choice currently, unless we were to organize. There's a lot more organization that needs to happen. Sorry, a lot of this actually came from the the Left Thinking podcast, which I think I might be actually be on this week. I just really respect what the person went through there, because he talked about, because he's Irish, and he talked about the Irish socialist type revolutions and why they failed horribly, because they did it very spontaneously, and you can't do something like that spontaneously. Like, you have to organize.
It's partially why I'm a gradualist, which I do not.
But like, even with but there are ways people can go about gradualism that involves not doing the organizing part. The organizing part really needs to be done for even gradualism to work.
Oh yeah, I agree. And if Null does not want to talk about their politics, then we should probably move to something else.
We should probably move to something else.
I mean, I'm down with y'all talking about stuff. It's more just, I'm sitting here going like, I'm
already on a politics show twice a week, so
Yeah,
I
and
probably don't need to.
yeah, I just
I did want to. Oops, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I did want to ask because forgive my ignorance, but didn't the IRA start out as like a communist party in Ireland?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah. I might have been thinking.
I remember talking about that with my very British ex mother-in-law, and it was fun.
Yeah. So I assumed socialist because I couldn't remember if it's communist or socialist. So that's I will now assume that you're correct, and then I will find out whether or not I was wrong. But part of the reason that the IRA failed terribly was because there was no organization. There's no people trying to figure out, what to do. There's various aspects in terms of changing people's minds and making connections, and people too often want to just tear things down, and that's not going to get anything done.
And I'm pretty sure there were a couple of schisms at some point. And
yeah. But like that's what happens when you don't organize. Like everything falls apart, and
that's also what happens when you do organize.
Ozma, I gotta get you to talk to my friend Jonathan just to because he doesn't understand. He doesn't get that the guillotine approach is not feasible.
I'm sure we can have a conversation. I'm totally fine with that. It can. I am fine with figuring out some way to have a conversation off the flute voice or on the flute voice. We can talk about that after things end. Speaking of which, things are actually getting close to ending.
Oh dear.
It's yeah.
It's always too fast.
Well. Yeah, but I mean that's a good thing. We should always end in such a way that people want more. Like that's a rule of thumb. Like you want to end so that people want more, or are really happy with the ending. One of those two things are like the good options. I
am absolutely for giving happy endings.
You're forgiving happy endings? Well, yeah, happy endings are fine.
Yes.
What's wrong with happy? There are happy endings that are good, and there's happy endings that are that don't work for the story. Like what stories write aspects of themselves.
I wasn't talking about stories.
Oh yeah, sorry. For the episodes, yeah, no, I'm good with happy endings for the episodes. Wait, what? No, am I lost? God damn it.
Perfect. Can you tell? Because
okay, I'm clearly
something of a sexual innuendo.
Yes, it was a sexual innuendo,
bringing things to a happy conclusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's because I never do sexual innuendo. You really kind of.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
for an episode to arrive at its completion.
Yes, there we go.
Look, I don't actually do that much sexual innuendo, so it's very easy for that to pass right by me. So, like,
I'm sorry.
There's nothing to apologize for.
I'm not actually sorry.
Oh, good.
I never lie to you, so heck with it.
Well,
never lie to
I assume
anybody.
you tried to not lie to me, with the exception of white lies on special circumstances where you are forced into an awkward situation. Sorry, I'm overthinking everything. I just like an emotional abusive former friend who is like, I never lie, but he lied like a ton. So I'm just like, I don't like the phrase "I never lie." Because of that.
I'm kind of mentally incapable of it.
Yeah, I know. Well,
it's one of those situations.
I just have to like actively be extra try to lie. I
may get the story wrong. That's as close as I get to lying. I may get the story wrong.
Well, that's
something
like being
happened.
wrong isn't the same as lying. Anyways,
I'm sorry.
no, there's something to apologize. Christy, Abbey, what are you working on?
Oh my god! all of a sudden, I had I'm on Sophia Bota's channel, BOTHA, and we're doing the bitching hour twice a week, which we talk. Two old trans people talk politics instead of talking trans issues, which is cool. We didn't talk trans issues this week, which was also cool. I kind of like having a break from it.
Oh yeah, no, I also like having a break. That's why on the sorry, I'll go into that later. Go on.
I am putting up a fair amount of music this week, which is for reasons of my friend who asked for it. Didn't know what she was getting into, I don't think, and I didn't know what I was getting into by saying okay. And I'm either having Shay or Jesse on for my interview this week, and the second interview is more of a hangout, and that's with Aaron Green. And I will start the Star Trek thing finally, because Jesse insisted, and I think maybe I'm just gonna imagine that the reason that she's not talking to me now because I haven't actually finished the script for it, but I've got a good. It's mostly done. So there we go.
Yeah,
I'm
where can
everywhere.
People find you?
Oh, Chris. Well, here, Sophia Bota's channel, and on my own channel, which is Christy Abbey, CHRISTY space ABBEY, which is my own channel, and a lot of stuff is going up on that, and probably up on Chris Abbey Music, which has lain fallow for a long time. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm doing a lot this week.
Yeah. Perfect. Where are you still just up to the Rumpus Room?
This and the Rumpus Room, Discord server, the Rumpus Room. But I just like to use a little bit of time to say that are you guys trying to tell me that trans people talk about things other than trans issues? I'm shocked.
I know.
Shocked, I said.
It's amazing.
Certainly
Yeah.
not me.
Null, where can people find you?
I basically am only on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter for whatever reason, I'm the Necrosis, THENECROSYS, not IS.
Well, I already follow you, don't
Yeah,
I?
and there's a link down below in the episode.
What's gonna?
Yeah.
Be warned, I get a little bit 18 plus sometimes for no reason, but it's never really that explicit.
Yeah. And
I do follow you, don't I? Or
I don't know. I don't. Maybe.
probably.
anyways, and I'm Alexandria, also known as Ozma in the Dark, everywhere except Twitter, which I'm talking to nothing. And I do the flute voice. Hopefully I should get I know I came out with the second episode of the D&D stream yesterday, which I had worked on months ago. But I got too obsessed with trying to get a good intro, but I should be getting a song for that, and I should be having the content the previous streams up more regularly with the intro add in, and it should also be added to the I plan on streaming to YouTube as well. And I might be on the Left Thinking podcast soon, where I talk about like it's gotta be either like this week or next. I know that the person who runs that put up there when I'd be on. I forgot, and because it was recorded ahead of time too. So like, it's gotta be soon. Anyway, I talk about ableism and asexuality spectrum on there, because I talk about stuff other than because like the fluid voice really kills any desire I have to talk about trans stuff a lot of times, and makes me want to talk about other stuff on anything other platform I end up on. So anyways, that should be all. I hope everyone has a good day. Like, take care of yourself, because the COVID virus and all that.
Yep. All voices matter, and all voices should find a place.
Yeah.